Today we're going to replace the clutch cable on a 2009 ZX-10R. The purpose of this video is to really demonstrate how simple and easy minor maintenance and part replacement can be if you have a little bit of understanding of how and what those parts are and how they operate. The first step to this is really having a motorcycle or a car that needs a clutch cable. The second step is understanding what the clutch cable is and what it does. The cable is used to transfer energy from one area to another mechanically. It transfers the energy from the clutch cable or from the clutch lever through the cable to the clutch release lever mounted on the engine transmission case. The cable is typically steel braided wire that runs inside a flexible plastic or rubber housing. It is very similar in operation to a bicycle's brake lines. Your clutch cable is what is used to disengage your transmission from the engine, and that allows you to change gears or modulate the power flow from the engine to the transmission and then to the ground. Now that you have an understanding, you should gather your tools, parts, and review your shop manual. The manual for my bike was found on ZX10R.net and was a free PDF format to download. It's time now to get your hands dirty and start the replacement process. This is the bike, the 2009 ZX10R. The clutch cable began to fray and snap. As you can see, when I move the clutch lever back, you'll see the cords there fraying off and disconnecting. The first step in removing the clutch cable is going to be to remove the right upper fairing by removing these 3 bolts. These 3 bolts also have nylon washers, and you want to make sure that you are very careful with these washers. You don't want to lose them. Once you remove those 3 bolts, the right upper fairing should come off very easily. Once you remove that fairing cover, you will see the clutch cable underneath of the mounting bracket. The next thing to do is to slide the dust cover off of clutch cable lower end. And then once you've done that, you're going to want to take a wrench and loosen the nuts on the lower end of the cable and slide it back towards the clutch release lever. This is your clutch adjustment knob. What you're going to want to do, if you can, is unscrew it all the way, and then you're going to pull the cable out of the slot and disconnect it from the lever itself. And as you can see here, this is my clutch cable, and it started snapping when I was out riding it one day, probably from a lack of maintenance, and we'll get to that later. Now what you're going to want to do is pull the clutch cable out. There's a bracket there that the clutch cable rides in, and you're going to want to make sure that you remember the routing of your cable if you don't have a manual handy. Once you get that loose, you can go down to the end, and you're going to remove the cable from the clutch release lever and start to pull it through the body underneath the mounting bracket, and it's just going to come out. You might have to play with it and wiggle it a little bit, but it will come out pretty easily. Now that you've got the old cable removed, what you're going to want to do is install the new cable. The hardest part about the installation is probably just running the cable. It is a little tight in between the coolant hose and the engine mounting bracket and the engine. All you have to do is take your time and play with it, and if you can't get it, take a step away and come back to it. You'll get it eventually. After you're done installing the new cable, or running the new cable, you're going to want to make sure that you reconnect the ends of the cable the same way that you took them off. After you're done doing that, you're going to adjust it to the specifications in your shop manual and make sure that the lever moves smoothly. As long as the lever is moving smoothly and the cable's not catching on anything while you turn the handlebars side to side, your cable should be good. Now it's time for a test ride. Here we are on the test ride, and everything looks good. Everything's working fine, the clutch is operating smoothly, and the clutch cable is not snagging on anything. Now we need to make sure that in the future that we maintain the clutch cable properly. This is probably the most overlooked maintenance aspect of riding a motorcycle. I don't think I know anybody that inspects or maintains their clutch cable. Maintaining the clutch cable is going to help to prevent the repeated replacement of the cable. It is a very simple task to look at the exposed areas of the braided cable for chafing, cuts, and breaks in the cable, as well as cracks and dry rotting in the cable's housing. For more information on maintenance and inspection of your clutch cable, refer to your shop manual.